Let's now speak to David Des Roches. He's an associate professor at the National Defense University, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks for your time with us on Al Jazeera. David Des Roches, give me your initial reaction to what's happened over the past few hours.
Well, first off, I really got it wrong. I didn't think that Iran would launch an attack from their own soil. And what I underestimated was the pride. And Iran clearly thinks that this is a moment to establish deterrence. I thought that they would confine the response to their proxy group. So let me start off by admitting failure. I think that it's clear that what they're trying to do is saturate Israel's air defenses and inflict some sort of damage. I don't know what the targets are. I don't think anybody does at this point. But a long, multiple attack by drones taking hours to get there. Israel clearly has the ability to attrit a significant number of those drones en route. I think they will deal with the drones as one threat, and they will deal with ballistic missiles as another threat. I don't think that any U.S. capability will come into play in defending Israel, because our assets our missile defense assets are either in the Gulf or they're in the Mediterranean.
Right.
To really be effective, you have to be on the path that's being overflighted by the missiles.
Okay, hang on a second. You're raising a lot of points here. Let's just break some of the points down. On the point you make about the drones, right? You're saying so they're going to take a few hours to arrive to Israel, but we now know that missiles have been launched as well, reportedly cruise missiles. What's the strategy there, and what impact? I know you said that you don't know what the targets are, but what impact could we expect the drones and the missiles to have?
Okay, good question. So let me start. Well, so we don't know what they're looking at. Drones generally have a small, relatively small warhead. The Iranian model of drones typically is about this big. It's the size of about 2 coffee cans, and it has copper penetrators on each side. So what we've seen in Ukrainian usage, or the Russians, for example, is that they aim them at machinery to cause maximum damage. So it would be possible that these would be fired at civilian infrastructure, such as the power grid, to disrupt it. That's what we've seen in Ukraine. They don't have the ability to penetrate hardened structures. So it's not a decisive military weapon. It's more of a harassment weapon and effective against civilian infrastructure. Cruise missiles are basically unmanned jets that fly, at a low level. They would have the ability to carry a larger warhead and create more damage. They're also a little bit more precise, because they're less affected by weather and damage, weather and going off string as they cover the large distance. Ballistic missiles, ballistic missiles take minutes, not hours, to get from Iran or Iraq towards Israel. Those do have a larger warhead, and they have a much more destructive capability. So I'd expect those to be aimed at hardened military targets.
And do you expect them to either be intercepted somewhere along the way, and if so, by whom? And my second question is about the capabilities of Israel's defense system, like the Iron Dome system, and also because will the Israelis be somewhat apprehensive, since they're not fully aware of what Iranian capabilities actually are?
Yeah. So the first issue is, can you acquire these? And the second is, do you have the ability to track all of them? So the Iranians are flooding the zone here and trying to overwhelm the cognitive capabilities of Israeli defenses. I think that the Israelis will have multiple layers, and they will have a different layer for each of the 3 different threats. So the first defense will be electronic warfare. There have been reports that various satellite navigation systems have been disrupted in Iraq, and that is probably because some of these missiles we believe are guided by the Russian version of GPS. So if you disrupt that, the missiles go off course, and they won't hit their intended target. So that's the first one. The second is, I would expect against drones and possibly cruise missiles that the Israelis would launch aircraft, helicopters, and fast movers, and try to just shoot them down kinetically. the challenge there is not so much can you do damage, it's can you find them, because like the Shaheed is made out of fiberglass. It has a very low radar signature. So what you would have to do is project forward where they're coming from. And then against the ballistic missiles, I think that that's where you get into things like David's sling and arrow. Those are your defenses against ballistic missiles. There's the possibility of some electronic warfare defense. When you get to your terminal phase, Iron Dome may be of some use against drones and possibly cruise missiles, but only in limited areas. And I think that Patriot, which Israel has, would be used against ballistic missiles, but again, only in limited areas.
Right.
Cruise missiles, I think, would be dealt with as aircraft.
Do you expect an Israeli retaliation?
Boy, that's a good question. And as I said, I got the Iranian response wrong. I thought it'd be proxies. I think there will be. It depends on the damage. If Israel manages to intercept most of these and no serious damage is done, then it's quite possible that they'll just say, okay, and there'll be some pro forma action against Revolutionary Guard personnel elsewhere in Syria, which we've been seeing for months and indeed years. But I think that, this could be, if there's no serious damage, this might be like the Iranian attack on the Iraqi base at Ain al-Assad that had American troops, where no American troops were killed after the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, and both sides kind of just said, "Okay, that's it, we're done, break."
Right, but this is the first time, though, that Iran tries to hit Israel directly. So it's a different situation, isn't it?
Yes, from Iranian. Yeah. So if Israel is able to parry the blow, then Israel will emerge with a heightened level of deterrence. They will have shown that they've taken everything Iran can throw at them and deal with it. If they inflict real damage, then Israel will probably, by the logic of deterrence, have to strike back against something important to Iran in order to destroy deterrence offensively. I think it'd be best for the region if Israel is able to restore deterrence through its defensive capabilities.
And what about the U.S.? What's their role in all of this? I mean, we know. Yeah, go ahead.
Less than we think. So the ships in the Mediterranean will be unable to play any significant role in the defense of Israel. Their Aegis is only effective, it's most effective against missiles that directly overfly it. And the indications I'm seeing is that the Iranian missiles are not being launched across the Gulf, across Saudi Arabia. They're being launched along the border with Iraq. There is no high-level intercept capability for missiles at any U.S. facility in Iraq or Syria. The forces would just watch them go past. I think that our role is to probably resupply Israel. To
what extent would they be coordinating Israel's response, if there is one, and advising the Israelis?
Yeah. One possibility is there may be a coordination of electronic warfare and certainly threat coordination, sharing flight paths and capabilities. And then, of course, there'll also be resupply of Israel's surface-to-air missile inventory. I think that's something that we can expect.
Okay.
But we're not going to be directly involved in shooting down missiles, I don't think.
All right. We will wait to see how this develops. For the time being, David Des Roches, we thank you for speaking to us from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.